That's what's available for your section. Patricia Morgan's voice sliced through the first-class cabin, cold as January ice. She slammed down a plastic-wrapped sandwich in front of the elderly black woman in seat 3A. 3 rows up, a white businessman cut into filet mignon. Steam rose from his plate. Real china, crystal wine glass catching the overhead lights. But Dorothy Richardson, 78 years old and wearing her mother's pearl earrings, stared down at sandwich bread so stale the edges had cracked like desert earth. The fruit cup next to it held apples turned the color of rust, berries collapsing into mush. Patricia's smile was all teeth and no warmth. Maybe first class isn't for everyone. Before we see how this 78-year-old civil rights attorney absolutely destroys this racist flight attendant with 5 decades of courtroom fire, smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far Dorothy's story reaches. You need to watch until the end, because what happens next will blow your mind. Dorothy's finger traced the edge of her boarding pass. First class, seat 3A, transcontinental flight 201, JFK to LAX. She'd paid with money earned from 50 years of courtroom battles. Every dollar a small victory against people who thought she belonged in the back. Grandma, you're doing that thing again. Jasmine shifted her carry-on to her other shoulder. The quiet thing. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about 1961, Montgomery. A woman at the ticket counter wouldn't touch my money, like my dollars carried disease. And now you're in first class. Now I'm in first class. Dorothy looked at her granddaughter, 25 and fierce, second-year law school at Columbia. But baby, progress and problems live in the same house. You're about to see both. The gate agent smiled at them, warm and genuine. Mrs. Richardson, Ms. Richardson, welcome aboard. First-class priority lane is open. Nothing changed in his expression when he scanned their passes. No hesitation, no second glance. Just professional courtesy, same as the white passengers ahead of them. See, Jasmine whispered as they walked down the jetway. Maybe it'll be fine. Dorothy squeezed her granddaughter's hand. Maybe. But 50 years of fighting discrimination had taught her something important. You didn't hope for the best. You prepared for the worst. The flight attendant at the aircraft door had kind eyes and an easy smile. Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Michael. Let me help you with those bags. He stowed their carry-ons, showed them to row 3, asked what they wanted to drink. Professional, courteous, equal. Champagne, please, Dorothy said. 2, Jasmine added. Perfect. Be right back. Michael returned with crystal flutes, the real thing. We'll have lunch in about 30 minutes. Today's choices are pan-seared sea bass with truffle risotto or prime filet mignon with roasted vegetables. I'll be back to take your order. Dorothy watched him move through the cabin. The businessman in 1A got the same greeting. The couple in row 2 got the same warm tone. The athletic woman in 4A got the same smile. Everyone's treated the same, Jasmine said. Dorothy sipped her champagne. So far. The plane pushed back, engines rumbling to life. Dorothy closed her eyes during takeoff, feeling Jasmine's hand grip hers the way she had since she was 6 years old. They climbed through clouds, New York falling away below, and for 20 minutes, everything felt normal. Then Patricia Morgan emerged from the galley. Dorothy saw her before Jasmine did. Something in the set of the woman's shoulders, the way she moved like she owned the cabin, and everyone in it owed her something. Patricia was mid-50s, white, hair pulled so tight it looked painful. Her uniform was perfect, every crease sharp, but her eyes were winter cold. Michael said something to her near the galley. Patricia's response was short, sharp. Michael's easy manner vanished, replaced by careful formality. He disappeared into the back, and Patricia took over. She started at the front. The businessman in 1A looked up from his laptop. "Good afternoon, sir." Patricia's voice transformed. Warm honey instead of ice. "How are you today? We'll be starting lunch service shortly. Today we have pan-seared sea bass with truffle risotto prepared by our executive chef, or prime filet mignon with roasted vegetables and red wine reduction. Both come with mixed greens, fresh rolls, and choice of chocolate mousse or berry tart for dessert." The businessman smiled. "The filet sounds great." "Excellent choice, sir. Can I suggest a nice Cabernet to complement it?" "Perfect." Patricia practically glowed. She moved to row 2, gave the same detailed description, laughed at the husband's joke, offered wine pairings. The woman in 4A got the same treatment. Then Patricia reached row 3. Her smile flattened, like someone had ironed it. Her eyes went through Dorothy and Jasmine instead of at them. Lunch. One word, not a question, a statement. Dorothy felt Jasmine tense. She put her hand on her granddaughter's arm. Wait. I'm sorry? Dorothy's voice was pleasant. Lunch service. Patricia's tone suggested this was more explanation than Dorothy deserved. Yes, I gathered that. What are our options? Patricia's jaw tightened. 2 options. Silence. Which are, Dorothy pressed, fish or beef. Jasmine's fingers dug into the armrest. Dorothy squeezed her arm gently. Not yet. Could you describe how they're prepared? Patricia's eyes flashed. Fish is fish. Beef is beef. Which one? The businessman in 1A had turned slightly. He wasn't looking back, but he was listening. I'll have the sea bass, Dorothy said, keeping her voice pleasant. And you? Patricia barely looked at Jasmine. Same. Fine. Patricia turned away. Excuse me. Dorothy's voice stopped her. You offered wine pairings to the other passengers. What would you recommend with the sea bass? Patricia turned back slowly. What do you want to drink? You suggested Cabernet for the beef. What wine pairs with the sea bass? White wine. What type of white wine? Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio? Each word came out like a separate sentence. Sauvignon Blanc, please. Same, Jasmine said. Patricia nodded once and walked away. Jasmine leaned close. Grandma. Watch, the pattern's not complete yet. Michael served the businessman first. White china plate, filet mignon arranged like art, vegetables positioned precisely, sauce drizzled in careful patterns, side salad in a small bowl, warm roll in cloth napkin, everything presented with care. The couple in row 2 got identical treatment. Michael took his time, made everything perfect, asked if they needed anything else. Patricia came down the aisle with her cart. She served the woman in 4A next. The sea bass looked beautiful, even from 3 rows back. Perfectly seared, golden brown, risotto creamy white, fresh vegetables, careful garnish. Then Patricia reached row 3. She didn't set up their tray tables. She reached into a lower compartment, a section she hadn't opened for anyone else, and pulled out 2 plastic-wrapped packages. She dropped them on Dorothy's tray table with a soft thunk, then one on Jasmine's. Dorothy stared at it. Clear plastic wrap. Wheat bread with hard, curled edges. Wilted lettuce. Maybe turkey. No plate. No presentation. Patricia set down 2 plastic fruit containers. Through the clear lid, Dorothy saw apple slices turned brown, berries going to mush, grapes starting to wrinkle. 2 juice boxes, room temperature, condensation beating on the outside. There you go. Dorothy looked at her sandwich, looked across the aisle at the businessman's perfect fillet, looked back at the couple enjoying their sea bass, looked down at expired food in plastic wrap. Jasmine's voice came out tight. Excuse me, there's been a mistake. Patricia turned back, her face suggesting this interruption annoyed her. Yes? Everyone else got hot meals, on plates. We got sandwiches in plastic. That's what we have for this section. This section. Dorothy felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd heard those words before, in 1961. That's the colored section, in 1965. That water fountain is for your section. Always separate, always less. We're in first class, Jasmine said, her voice rising. Same as everyone else, our tickets cost the same. Ma'am, I don't make the rules. That's what's available. Available? Dorothy spoke now, her voice quiet but carrying. You offered Mr. Williams in 1A a choice between sea bass and filet mignon. You described the preparation. You offered wine pairings. You did the same for everyone else. But when you reached us, you said fish or beef with no description. And now you're serving us food that didn't come from the same place. Patricia's lips pressed thin. If you have a complaint, file it after the flight. I'm addressing it now. I'd like to speak with the head flight attendant. I am the senior flight attendant in this cabin. Then I'd like to speak with your supervisor. That's not necessary. I disagree. Dorothy reached for her reading glasses, put them on slowly. She looked at Patricia's name tag. Patricia Morgan, employee number? Patricia's face flushed. Ma'am, you're causing a disruption. I'm causing a disruption? Dorothy's voice rose slightly, carrying to nearby passengers. I'm sitting in my assigned seat, asking why I received different service than every other passenger. How am I disrupting anything? The businessman had fully turned around. So had the couple in row 2. The woman in 4A pulled out an earbud. Patricia's voice dropped, got harder. Some people are never satisfied, always want special treatment. There it was. Jasmine gasped. Dorothy put a firm hand on her granddaughter's arm. Special treatment? Dorothy's voice went quiet again. Is it special treatment to expect the same meal as everyone else in first class? You're getting a meal. Am I? Let me show you something. Dorothy unwrapped the sandwich. The plastic crinkled in the silent cabin. She picked up the top slice of bread. The edges were hard, slightly curled. This bread is stale. It's fine. Dorothy opened the fruit container. Jasmine, what's the date on that juice box? Jasmine turned it over. May 17th. What's today? May 14th. 3 days from expiration. Dorothy held up the fruit container. Brown apple slices, mushy berries, wrinkled grapes. This fruit is rotting. The businessman leaned over to look. His expression changed. That's not fit for consumption. It's not expired yet, Patricia said. It expires in 3 days. The fruit is going bad. The bread is stale. And you served this while everyone else got fresh, hot meals on china plates. Dorothy looked directly at Patricia. Why? This is ridiculous. You're making a scene over a simple why. Dorothy's voice cut through. Simple question. Why did I get different food than everyone else in first class? Patricia's control slipped. Maybe you should have packed something from home if you're so particular. The cabin went dead silent. Then Patricia added, quieter but still audible, some people just don't belong in first class. The businessman stood up. Excuse me, did you seriously just say that? Patricia whirled on him. Sir, this doesn't concern you. It does concern me. I watched your entire service. You spent 5 minutes describing my meal. You brought me wine in crystal. You asked if I needed anything multiple times. But you gave these ladies expired food in plastic wrap and told them to be grateful? He looked at Dorothy. Ma'am, that food isn't from the galley. That's from somewhere else. Thank you, Dorothy said. The wife from row 2 leaned forward. I saw it too. The way you spoke to her versus us, completely different. Patricia's face went from red to pale. You people are... You people? The woman from 4A stood up, phone in hand. Did you just say, you people? I'm recording this, by the way. Dorothy picked up the fruit container again, held it where everyone could see. This should have been thrown away. It's fine, Patricia insisted, but her voice shook. It's rotting. Dorothy's voice was steady, controlled. You served me garbage while everyone else got gourmet meals, and when I politely asked why, you became hostile. You told me to be grateful. You told me I don't belong here. She paused. I want to see the head flight attendant. Now. Patricia's eyes darted around the cabin. Every passenger was watching now. Fine. The word came out sharp. But you're going to regret making such a fuss. Am I? Dorothy removed her reading glasses, looked directly at Patricia. Tell me why I should regret insisting on being treated like a human being. Patricia's mouth opened, closed. She turned and rushed toward the galley. Robert Williams, the businessman, turned fully around. Ma'am, I'm Robert Williams. If you need a witness statement, I'm happy to provide one. So am I, said the wife from row 2. I've got video, the woman from 4A said, holding up her phone. Started recording when it got heated. Dorothy looked at Jasmine. This is what I wanted you to see, not just the discrimination. Watch what's happening now. These people are standing up. They didn't notice at first, Jasmine said. No, because it was subtle. Microaggressions usually are. But then she escalated. She got sloppy. And that's when we got evidence, not just attitude, physical evidence of different treatment. Michael emerged from the galley, followed by an older woman with silver hair and unmistakable authority. Her name tag read, Linda Chen, lead flight attendant. Linda approached row 3, her expression serious. Mrs. Richardson, I'm Linda Chen. I understand there's an issue with your meal service. She looked at Dorothy's tray, the unwrapped sandwich, the opened fruit container, the juice box. Linda picked up the fruit, examined it, looked at the expiration date, touched the bread's edge. May I ask what other passengers were served? Filet mignon, Robert said. China plate, hot, perfectly presented. Wine in crystal, same as everyone in first class. Linda's jaw tightened. She turned to Michael. Is this from our first class service? Michael's face was tight. No, ma'am. That's crew backup meals. Prepackaged sandwiches. Crew meals. Linda's voice stayed carefully neutral. Why were first-class passengers served crew backup when we have full service on this flight? Michael glanced toward the galley. You'd have to ask Patricia. She handled this section. This section. Again. Linda's expression hardened. Mrs. Richardson, Miss Richardson, please accept my sincere apologies. This is completely unacceptable. Michael, bring these ladies full first-class service immediately. Yes, ma'am. Linda lowered her voice. I need to file an incident report. Would you provide a statement? Absolutely, Dorothy said. I want to give one too, Robert called out. I have video, added the woman from 4A. Linda nodded. Thank you. But first, let me address this. She walked to the galley. Dorothy watched her go, watched the determined stride. Michael returned with proper service. China plates, sea bass identical to what others received. Beautiful, fresh, artful presentation. I'm so sorry, ladies. This should never have happened. We know, Dorothy said, but it did. Question is, what happens now? The Sauvignon Blanc you requested? Michael set down crystal glasses. Anything else? Please, anything. We're fine, Michael. Thank you. He nodded and walked away. Jasmine leaned close. Grandma, she did it on purpose, didn't she? What do you think? Jasmine looked at the discarded crew meal, then at her fresh plate. She chose to give us different food. Expired food. Because we're black. That's exactly right. That's what discrimination looks like in 2024. She treated us as less than, based solely on skin color. And when confronted, she got defensive and hostile. That's the pattern. But we're in first class. We belong here. We do. But Patricia Morgan doesn't think so. You heard her. This section. Be grateful, you people. Every phrase designed to put us in our place. To remind us that in her mind, we don't belong. Jasmine's hands shook. I'm so angry. I know. I am too. But watch what we're doing with that anger. We're calm, collected, strategic. We're gathering evidence, getting witnesses, documenting everything. That's how you fight discrimination. Not with emotion, though the emotion is valid. With facts, evidence, and law. From the galley, voices rose. Linda's, controlled but firm. Patricia's, defensive and sharp. Then Linda emerged, alone. She came straight to row 3, crouched beside Dorothy's seat. Mrs. Richardson, Patricia Morgan has been removed from cabin service. She'll stay in the rear galley for the remainder of the flight. Upon landing, there will be a full investigation. I appreciate that, Linda, but this isn't just about one flight attendant. This is about a pattern that still exists. I've fought this my entire life. I'm 78 years old. I'm tired, but I'm not too tired to fight. Linda's eyes met Dorothy's. I hear you, and I want you to know I hear you not as someone trying to smooth over a problem, but as a woman who's also experienced discrimination in this industry. What Patricia did was wrong. It was racist. I'm not using softer words. Dorothy felt something ease. Thank you for saying it plainly. You deserve honesty. Would you be willing to speak with our corporate diversity team? Not just about this incident, but to help prevent it happening to others? Dorothy considered. I'll do more than speak with them. I'll help them understand what real change looks like. Linda smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. She pulled out a business card. My direct contact. Please reach out if you need anything. Linda, Dorothy called as she stood. Thank you for believing us, for taking action. It's the bare minimum of what you deserved. The meal service continued. Michael checked on them regularly. Other passengers stopped by, offering support, expressing outrage, making sure Dorothy knew they'd witnessed everything. Dorothy ate her sea bass, perfectly cooked, exactly what she should have received from the start. But the taste was bitter with what had happened, with what Patricia had tried to do. But something else was building. Not just anger. Strategy. Because Patricia Morgan was one person, but the attitude she displayed came from somewhere deeper, from a society that still treated black people as less than, as not belonging, as needing to be grateful for crumbs. Dorothy had spent 50 years fighting that in courtrooms. She'd won cases, changed policies, helped dismantle legal structures supporting discrimination. But here, at 78, served expired food in first class, she was reminded the fight wasn't over. Jasmine whispered, "Grandma, are you okay?" Dorothy smiled. "I'm better than okay, baby. I'm planning." Planning what? How to make sure today matters. How to turn this moment into momentum. Dorothy's smile widened. Oh, baby, we're just getting started. And in the back galley, Patricia Morgan sat alone, her career ending, unaware that Dorothy Richardson was about to make sure her name became a case study in every diversity training program in the aviation industry. But more than that, unaware that she'd just awakened something in Dorothy that had been dormant for years. The fighter, the warrior, the woman who'd stared down segregation and won. And this time, she wasn't fighting alone. She had witnesses. She had video. She had evidence. And she had 50 years of legal expertise about to rain down on transcontinental airlines like a thunderstorm they'd never forget. Patricia's hand shot toward the call button above her head. "I'm calling the captain right now. You're threatening crew safety." "Threatening?" Dorothy's voice carried to every seat. "I'm holding up rotten fruit you served me. How is that a threat?" "Sit down," Patricia's voice cracked. "You're creating a disturbance." Robert Williams stood up from 1A. "The only disturbance is you serving expired food to passengers." The wife from row 2 rose. "We all saw what you did." "I have it on video," the woman from 4A called out, waving her phone. "Every second." Patricia's face cycled through red to white to red again. Her finger jabbed the call button 3 times, sharp and desperate. "This is first class, Patricia to cockpit. We have a situation. Passenger refusing to follow crew instructions." Dorothy didn't sit down. She turned slowly, making eye contact with every passenger in the cabin. "My name is Dorothy Richardson. I'm 78 years old. I paid $3,000 for this first-class ticket. And this flight attendant just served me food that should be in a garbage can, while everyone else got filet mignon." She held the fruit container higher. Passengers in rows 5 and 6 stood to see. "Look at this. Really, look at it." Dorothy's voice was steady, powerful. "This is what discrimination looks like in 2024. Not separate water fountains, not back of the bus, but expired food served to a black woman while white passengers eat gourmet meals." A man in row 5, white, probably 60, spoke up. "I'm a doctor. That fruit is a health hazard. Those berries have visible mold." Patricia lunged forward. "Give me that." Dorothy pulled the container back. "No, this is evidence." "Evidence of what?" Patricia's voice went shrill. "You're insane. You're making this about race when it's about nothing." "Nothing?" Jasmine stood up beside her grandmother. "You told us to be grateful. You said we don't belong in first class. You said you people. What exactly is that about if not race?" The cabin door to the cockpit opened. A man in his 50s, captain's uniform, emerged. His name tag read, Captain David Martinez. His expression was serious, controlled, taking in the scene immediately. Dorothy still held the fruit container. Patricia stood 3 feet away, her body rigid with anger and fear. Every passenger in first class was either standing or turned in their seats, watching. "What's going on here?" Martinez's voice was calm, authoritative. Patricia jumped in first. "Captain, this passenger is refusing to follow crew instructions and creating a disturbance. I asked her to sit down multiple times, and she's threatening me." Threatening you? Dorothy's eyebrows rose. Captain Martinez, I haven't made a single threat. I stood up to show passengers the expired food this flight attendant served me. That's not a threat. That's evidence of discrimination. Martinez looked at the container in Dorothy's hand. May I see that? Dorothy handed it to him. He examined it, his expression darkening as he saw the brown apples, the moldy berries, the rotting grapes. Where did this come from? Ms. Morgan served it to me, Dorothy said, while everyone else in first class received fresh, hot meals on china plates. That's not true, Patricia started, but Martinez held up his hand. Patricia, is this from our first class meal service? We have different options, yes or no. Is this from our first class galley? Patricia's mouth opened, closed. It's from crew backup supplies. Why were first-class passengers served crew backup supplies? Silence. Martinez turned to Dorothy. Ma'am, did you receive different service than other first-class passengers? Yes, Captain, and I have witnesses. I'm one, Robert Williams said immediately. I watched the entire meal service. The difference in treatment was blatant. So am I, said the doctor from row 5. That food is expired and potentially dangerous. I have video, the woman from 4A added. Everything from the hostile attitude to the expired food. Martinez's jaw tightened. He looked at Patricia. My office, now, after we land. Captain, she's exaggerating. I said, my office. Martinez's voice cut like steel. He turned to Dorothy. Ma'am, I apologize. This is unacceptable. Please sit down, and I promise you this will be addressed. With respect, Captain, I've heard that before. Dorothy's voice was quiet but firm. I've heard we'll look into it, and we take this seriously my entire life. And nothing changes. I understand your skepticism, but I give you my word. Your word? Dorothy set the fruit container down on her tray table. Captain, I'm a retired attorney. I spent 50 years fighting discrimination cases. I know what your word means. It means you'll file a report that gets buried. It means Ms. Morgan might get a write-up, maybe sensitivity training. Then she'll do this to someone else who doesn't have the courage to speak up. Martinez's expression shifted. You're an attorney? Was. Civil rights law. Retired 5 years ago. Dorothy pulled out her phone. But I still have contacts, and I promise you, this incident won't be buried. The woman from 4A spoke up. My video already has 50,000 views. I posted it 10 minutes ago. Patricia's face went white. You what? Posted it to Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's already viral. People are tagging transcontinental airlines asking for comment. You had no right. I had every right, the woman shot back. This is a public space, and documenting discrimination is protected speech. Martinez pulled out his own phone, typed something quickly. His expression changed as he read. It's trending. #racist flight attendant. Your name is already out there, Patricia. Patricia stumbled backward like she'd been hit. No, this isn't. I didn't. Didn't what? Dorothy's voice was quiet. Didn't serve me expired food? Didn't tell me I don't belong in first class? Didn't say, you people, loud enough for everyone to hear? I was just doing my job. Your job is to discriminate? Jasmine's voice cracked. Your job is to serve garbage to black passengers? It wasn't about... Patricia looked around wildly, searching for an ally. Somebody tell them I'm not racist. Dead silence. Robert Williams spoke, his voice cold. I'm a CEO. I've sat in hundreds of first-class cabins. I've never seen a flight attendant treat passengers the way you treated these ladies. Ever. The doctor added, I'm calling the CDC when we land. So expired food on an aircraft is a violation of federal health regulations. I'm calling my attorney, said another passenger, a woman in her 40s Dorothy hadn't heard from yet. I witnessed this entire incident and I want it on record. Patricia's breathing got faster, shallower. Her hands shook. This is insane. You're all insane. It was just a sandwich. Just a sandwich? Dorothy stepped closer. Let me tell you what it was. It was you looking at my skin color and deciding I deserved less. It was you pulling food from a different compartment because you thought I wouldn't notice or wouldn't speak up. It was you trying to put me in my place, because in your mind, a black woman doesn't belong in first class. That's not, it is. Dorothy's voice was absolute. I've seen it 1,000 times. Different forms, same hate. And I'm done being quiet about it. Martinez held up his hands. Mrs. Richardson, I hear you, and I want you to know this will result in immediate termination. Will it? Dorothy pulled out her reading glasses, put them on. Or will Ms. Morgan file a grievance through her union, claim she was following protocol, say I was the difficult one? Martinez's silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. Dorothy turned to the other passengers. How many of you will still care about this tomorrow? Next week? When the news cycle moves on and Transcontinental issues a statement about not reflecting our values. Robert Williams met her eyes. I will. I'm prepared to testify if needed. So am I, said the doctor. Me too, from the woman with the video. One by one, passengers spoke up. 11 witnesses, 11 people willing to go on record. Dorothy felt something shift in her chest. Not just anger anymore. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. Linda Chen appeared from the back of the cabin. Captain, I've completed my preliminary report. We have documented evidence of discriminatory service, expired food being served to passengers, and hostile behavior from a crew member. I'm recommending immediate suspension pending investigation. Agreed. Martinez turned to Patricia. You're suspended, effective immediately. You'll remain in the rear galley for the remainder of this flight. Upon landing, you'll surrender your crew ID and be escorted from the aircraft. Patricia's face crumpled. You can't. I have rights. You have the right to union representation, which you'll need. Martinez's voice was hard. Because federal discrimination laws apply to airlines, and what you did today violates about 6 of them. I want a lawyer. Good idea, Dorothy's voice cut through, because I'm not just filing a complaint with the airline. I'm filing a federal discrimination lawsuit, and every passenger in this cabin is a witness. Patricia's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed the seat back of row 4 for support. You're ruining my life. No, Dorothy's voice was quiet, final. You ruined your own life the moment you decided my skin color meant I deserved expired food. Linda took Patricia's arm gently but firmly. Come with me. As they walked toward the back, Patricia turned. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Are you? Dorothy called after her. Or are you sorry you got caught? Patricia didn't answer. She disappeared into the rear cabin, and the first-class section erupted in conversation. Martinez approached Dorothy. Mrs. Richardson, again, I apologize. This is not who we are as an airline. Isn't it? Dorothy sat down slowly, suddenly feeling every one of her 78 years. Ms. Morgan didn't wake up today and decide to be racist. This is learned behavior, enabled behavior. How many times has she done this before and nobody said anything? Martinez's expression flickered. I can't comment on personnel matters. That's a yes. Dorothy closed her eyes briefly. She's done this before. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Dorothy opened her eyes, looked directly at Martinez. Here's what's going to happen, Captain. I'm going to file a formal complaint. I'm going to contact the Department of Transportation. I'm going to reach out to every civil rights organization I worked with in my career. And I'm going to make sure this doesn't just end with one flight attendant getting fired. What do you want? Real change. Mandatory anti-discrimination training that actually means something. Regular audits of service disparities. An anonymous complaint system. And most importantly, consequences. Real consequences for employees who discriminate. Martinez nodded slowly. I'll pass that to corporate. You do that. Dorothy's voice was tired. Now I'd like to finish my flight in peace. Martinez returned to the cockpit. The cabin slowly settled back down, but the energy had changed. Passengers kept glancing at Dorothy, at Jasmine, some with admiration, some with sympathy, all with a new awareness. Robert Williams leaned across the aisle. Mrs. Richardson, that was remarkable. It was necessary. Still, most people would have stayed quiet. Most people haven't spent 50 years learning how to fight. Dorothy looked out the window at clouds passing below. But staying quiet is how discrimination survives. Silence is permission. Jasmine took her grandmother's hand. "Grandma, are you okay?" "Tired, baby. So tired." "Do you want to rest?" "Can't. Not yet." Dorothy squeezed her granddaughter's hand. "Because something's bothering me." "What?" Captain Martinez's reaction. When I asked if Patricia had done this before, he didn't deny it. He deflected, which means there's a history. "You think the airline knew?" "I think the airline suspected, maybe even had complaints, but it's easier to ignore complaints than to address systemic problems." The woman from 4A approached, phone in hand. "Mrs. Richardson? I'm Sarah Chen. The video I posted has 2 million views now. CNN wants to interview you when we land." Dorothy blinked. 2 million? And climbing. People are furious. They're demanding Transcontinental respond. The airline's social media is getting destroyed. Jasmine pulled out her own phone, scrolled quickly. "Grandma, you're trending. Hashtag Dorothy Richardson. People are sharing the video, talking about their own experiences with discrimination." "Let me see." Dorothy took the phone, read through comments. "This happened to me on Delta last year. I've been afraid to speak up. Thank you, Dorothy Richardson, for your courage." This is 2024 and we're still fighting this? That flight attendant should be arrested, not just fired. Where can I donate to Mrs. Richardson's legal fund? Dorothy handed the phone back. "This is bigger than I thought." "You started something, Grandma." "No, baby. I just refused to stay quiet. People started it themselves by sharing, by speaking up, by saying they've had enough." Sarah sat down in the empty seat across the aisle. "Mrs. Richardson, can I ask you something? How did you stay so calm? I would have been screaming." Screaming doesn't win court cases. Evidence does. Witnesses do. Staying calm and collected while the other side falls apart does. Dorothy smiled slightly. "I learned that lesson in 1965, Montgomery Courthouse. Judge told me to sit in the back because the front rows were for white attorneys. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I sat in the front row anyway and asked if he wanted to hold me in contempt for being black." "What happened?" "He backed down. Because I made it impossible for him to do anything else without admitting his racism out loud." Dorothy looked toward the back of the plane where Patricia had disappeared. "Same principle here. I didn't accuse Ms. Morgan of racism. I simply pointed out facts. Different food, different service, different treatment. I let the facts speak for themselves." Michael appeared with a bottle of wine. "Compliments of Captain Martinez. He wanted you to have this." Dorothy accepted it, read the label. "Expensive. Very expensive." "Thank you, Michael." "No, ma'am. Thank you. I've worked with Patricia for 3 years. I've seen her treat passengers differently. I should have said something before. I'm sorry I didn't." "You're saying something now. That matters." Michael nodded and walked away. The doctor from row 5 approached next. "Mrs. Richardson, I'm Dr. James Patterson. I want you to know I've documented the food you were served. Date, time, condition. If you need medical testimony about the health risks, I'm available." "Thank you, Dr. Patterson." Another passenger, a younger man in his 30s. "Mrs. Richardson, I'm Marcus Johnson. I'm a journalist with the Washington Post. I'd love to interview you about this, about your career, about discrimination in the airline industry." "I'll consider it." They kept coming, one after another, offering support, sharing stories, asking how they could help. Dorothy accepted each offer graciously, but inside she felt the weight of it building. This had started as one woman refusing to accept expired food. Now it was becoming a movement. Jasmine whispered, "Grandma, you look exhausted." "I am, baby." "Then rest. Let me handle things for a while." "Can't. Not yet." Dorothy pulled out her phone, dialed a number from memory. "Who are you calling?" "Old friend. Someone who needs to hear about this." The phone rang twice before a woman's voice answered. "Dorothy Richardson, I haven't heard from you in 3 years. Hey, Angela, I need a favor." "What kind of favor?" "The kind that involves a federal discrimination lawsuit against a major airline." Silence. Then, "Tell me everything." Dorothy talked for 15 minutes, laying out facts with the precision of a prosecutor presenting to a grand jury. Angela Martinez, former ACLU attorney and Dorothy's colleague from a dozen civil rights cases, listened without interrupting. When Dorothy finished, Angela said, "You've got them cold. Witnesses, video, physical evidence. They'll settle before trial. I don't want a settlement. Dorothy, I want change, Angela. Real change. A settlement means a check and an NDA. I want testimony. I want depositions. I want discovery that shows how many times this has happened before.
Well, that could take years. I'm 78. I might not have years, but whatever time I have left, I'm using it.
Angela was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'm in. I'll start drafting the complaint tonight. We'll file Monday. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank you for not staying quiet. Dorothy ended the call, set down her phone. Jasmine was watching her with something like awe. Grandma, you're really doing this. Baby, I've been doing this my whole life. Only difference is, now I have video evidence and social media. Back in my day, discrimination happened in shadows. Now, it happens in daylight, and people can't look away. The flight continued. Dorothy accepted more offers of support, more requests for interviews, more pledges to help however people could. By the time Captain Martinez announced their descent into Los Angeles, Dorothy Richardson had become something she never intended to be, a symbol, a rallying point, a reminder that staying quiet never changed anything. As the plane touched down and taxied to the gate, Dorothy looked out the window and saw something that made her breath catch. News vans, at least a dozen. Cameras, reporters. Grandma, look! I see them. They're here for you. Dorothy took a deep breath, let it out slowly. Then I guess we better give them something worth reporting. The plane stopped at the gate. The seatbelt sign dinged off. But before anyone could stand, Captain Martinez's voice came over the intercom one last time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Martinez. Before we deplane, I want to say something. What happened on this flight today was unacceptable. One of our crew members failed to uphold the values this airline claims to represent. But one of our passengers showed us what courage looks like. Mrs. Richardson, the entire crew thanks you for speaking up. And to every passenger who witnessed what happened and chose to stand with her, thank you. That's how change happens. The cabin erupted in applause. Dorothy felt tears sting her eyes, but blinked them back. The door opened. Passengers began to deplane, but many stopped at row 3 to shake Dorothy's hand, to thank her, to promise they'd follow her story. When it was finally their turn, Dorothy stood slowly. Her knees ached. Her back was stiff. She was exhausted. But she walked off that plane with her head high, Jasmine beside her, ready to face whatever came next. The jetway opened into chaos. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. Microphones thrust forward on extended poles. Reporters shouted over each other, their voices colliding into incomprehensible noise. Mrs. Richardson, how do you feel right now? Did the airline apologize? Are you planning to sue? What do you want people to know? Dorothy stopped at the threshold where jetway met terminal. Jasmine's hand tightened on her arm, protective, but Dorothy shook her head slightly. Not yet. She wasn't running from this. Mrs. Richardson, please, a uniformed airport security officer appeared at her elbow. We need to get you through to baggage claim. It's not safe here. Not safe? Dorothy's voice cut through the noise. The reporters quieted, sensing something. Young man, I marched in Selma in 1965. I've had dogs set on me, fire hoses, grown men with badges and billy clubs. A few reporters with cameras don't scare me. The security officer blinked. Ma'am, I'm just trying to... I know what you're trying to do. Move me along, make this somebody else's problem. But I'm not leaving until I say what needs to be said. A reporter from CNN pushed to the front, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes. Mrs. Richardson, I'm Rachel Torres, CNN. Can you tell us what happened on that flight? Dorothy looked directly into the camera behind Rachel. I was served expired food while white passengers ate gourmet meals. When I asked why, the flight attendant told me, I don't belong in first class. That's what happened. Do you believe you were discriminated against because of your race? I don't believe anything. I know. I have witnesses. I have video evidence. I have the spoiled food in a sealed bag. Facts don't require belief, Ms. Torres. They require acknowledgement. Another reporter shouted, What do you want from Transcontinental Airlines? I want them to admit they have a problem. I want them to show me how many other complaints they've received about this flight attendant. I want to know why she still had her job if this wasn't the first time. Rachel's eyes sharpened. Are you saying this has happened before? I'm saying I'd be shocked if it hasn't. Discrimination isn't one bad apple. It's a tree that's been growing in poisoned soil for decades. A male reporter from Fox News muscled forward. Some people might say you're playing the race card, Mrs. Richardson. How do you respond to that? Dorothy turned to face him directly. The crowd went quiet. The race card. You know what that phrase means? It means shut up. It means your experience isn't valid. It means we don't want to hear about discrimination because it makes us uncomfortable. She paused. I'm 78 years old. I've been hearing don't play the race card since before you were born, and I'm done pretending racism doesn't exist to make white people comfortable. The Fox reporter's face reddened. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You meant exactly that. Next question. Jasmine squeezed her grandmother's arm, whispered, Grandma, you're amazing. Dorothy kept her eyes on the cameras. I'm not amazing. I'm tired. Tired of having this same conversation. Tired of proving discrimination exists. Tired of being told I'm too sensitive when someone serves me garbage while serving everyone else gourmet food. Sarah Chen, the passenger who'd filmed the incident, appeared at Dorothy's other side. I was on that flight. I recorded everything. Mrs. Richardson is telling the truth. Rachel Torres turned her microphone to Sarah. What did you see? Blatant racism. The flight attendant, Patricia Morgan, gave Mrs. Richardson and her granddaughter completely different service than every other passenger. Different tone, different food, different everything. And when Mrs. Richardson politely asked why, Patricia became hostile and dismissive. Dr. Patterson pushed through the crowd. I'm Dr. James Patterson. I was also on that flight. The food served to Mrs. Richardson was expired and moldy. As a physician, I can confirm it was a health hazard. Robert Williams appeared next. Robert Williams, CEO of Williams Industries. I witnessed the entire incident. I'm prepared to testify in court if necessary. The reporter's energy shifted, sensing a bigger story. More passengers from the flight began speaking up, each adding their testimony, their outrage, their support. Then the crowd parted, and a woman in a crisp business suit stepped forward. Her expression was carefully neutral, her movements calculated. Mrs. Richardson, my name is Jennifer Caldwell. I'm the Regional Director of Customer Relations for Transcontinental Airlines. Could we speak privately? No. Dorothy's response was immediate. Whatever you want to say, you can say in front of these cameras. Jennifer's smile tightened. I understand you're upset. The airline wants to make this right. Make this right? How? We'd like to offer you compensation for your negative experience, a full refund of your ticket, complimentary future travel, and a settlement that would... A settlement. Dorothy's voice went cold. You want to pay me to be quiet. We want to acknowledge that you had an unacceptable experience and stop. Just stop. Dorothy stepped closer to Jennifer, close enough that the microphones caught every word. You don't want to acknowledge anything. You want to make this go away. You want me to sign an NDA and disappear, so nobody asks how many other black passengers Patricia Morgan discriminated against, how many complaints you ignored, how many times you chose protecting a racist employee over protecting your passengers. Jennifer's professional mask cracked slightly. Mrs. Richardson, I can assure you we take all complaints seriously. Then show me Patricia Morgan's personnel file. Show me her complaint history. I can't do that. Privacy laws. Privacy laws don't protect employers from discrimination lawsuits, and that's what this is becoming. Dorothy pulled out her phone, held it up. I just got off the phone with my attorney. We're filing a federal discrimination lawsuit Monday morning against Patricia Morgan and Transcontinental Airlines. Jennifer's face went white. Mrs. Richardson, please, let's discuss this reasonably. I'm being completely reasonable. You discriminated against me. You served me expired food. You violated federal law. Now you face consequences. That's reasonable. A reporter shouted, How much are you suing for? I don't care about money. Dorothy's voice carried across the terminal. I care about change. I want mandatory training. I want regular audits. I want an independent review board. I want policies that protect passengers instead of protecting racist employees. Jennifer opened her mouth, but before she could speak, another voice cut through the crowd. She's lying. She's making this all up. The crowd turned. Patricia Morgan stood 20 feet away, flanked by two people in business attire who looked like lawyers. Her face was blotchy from crying, her uniform rumpled. But her voice carried fury and desperation. "I didn't discriminate against anyone. She's twisting everything to play victim." The terminal went silent. Cameras swiveled toward Patricia. Dorothy stood perfectly still, watching. Patricia stepped forward, her lawyers trying to hold her back. "I served her the same food I serve everyone. She's the one who made it about race. She's the one who caused a scene." "The same food?" Dorothy's voice was quiet, deadly. "So everyone got expired sandwiches? Everyone got rotting fruit?" "It wasn't expired. It was fine." "Dr. Patterson." Dorothy didn't take her eyes off Patricia. "Please tell Ms. Morgan what you told me about that food." Dr. Patterson stepped forward. The berries had visible mold. The apples were completely oxidized. The bread was stale to the point of being inedible. That food should have been disposed of, not served to passengers. Patricia's face crumpled. "You don't understand. She complained about everything. She was difficult from the start." "I asked politely what the meal options were," Dorothy said. "You responded with hostility. I asked for the same information you'd given every other passenger. You refused." "That's not true." Sarah held up her phone. "I have you on video, saying you people, saying some people don't belong in first class. Want me to play it right here?" Patricia's lawyers grabbed her arms, tried to pull her back. "Ms. Morgan, don't say anything else." But Patricia was beyond listening. "I've worked for Transcontinental for 20 years. 20 years of perfect service. And now my career is destroyed because this woman decided to make everything about race." 20 years. Dorothy's voice was thoughtful. 20 years. "And how many black passengers did you serve expired food to in those 20 years?" "None. I never." "How many complaints have been filed against you?" Patricia's mouth snapped shut. Dorothy turned to Jennifer Caldwell. "Ms. Caldwell, you have access to employee records. How many complaints has Patricia Morgan received about discriminatory behavior?" Jennifer's face was stone. "I can't disclose that information." "Can't or won't?" Dorothy looked at the cameras. "That silence tells you everything you need to know. They know. They've known. And they did nothing." One of Patricia's lawyers stepped forward. "Mrs. Richardson, you're making serious accusations without evidence." "Without evidence?" Dorothy laughed, sharp and bitter. "I have 11 passengers willing to testify. I have video. I have the expired food itself. What I want to know is what evidence Transcontinental Airlines has been sitting on." Rachel Torres pushed forward again. "Ms. Caldwell, can you confirm or deny that Patricia Morgan has received previous complaints?" No comment. "That's a confirmation," another reporter called out. Jennifer's professional composure shattered. "This is a witch hunt. You're trying to destroy someone's career based on one incident." "One incident we know about," Dorothy corrected. "How many incidents we don't know about? How many passengers stayed quiet? How many were too afraid to speak up?" Jasmine's phone buzzed. She looked down, her eyes widening. "Grandma, Twitter. Hashtag Patricia Morgan complaints is trending. People are sharing stories, dozens of them." Dorothy took the phone, read quickly. Her expression hardened with each story. "She served me a frozen meal while everyone else got hot food. I thought I was imagining things. She rolled her eyes when I asked for water. Made me feel like I was bothering her just by existing. She refused to help my elderly mother with her bag. Helped 3 white passengers right after. Story after story. Pattern after pattern. Years of complaints that had gone nowhere." Dorothy looked up at Jennifer. "Still think this is one incident?" Jennifer had no answer. She backed away, pulling out her phone, speaking urgently to someone. Patricia stood frozen, watching her career disintegrate in real time. "I'm not a racist. I'm not. Sometimes people are sensitive and..." "Sensitive." Dorothy's voice could have cut glass. "That's what you're going with? Sensitive?" "I didn't mean anything by it. You're taking everything the wrong way." "Then explain to me the right way to interpret being served expired food while everyone else got filet mignon." Patricia couldn't. Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. One of her lawyers pulled her back firmly. "Ms. Morgan, we're leaving. Now." As they pushed through the crowd, Patricia turned back one last time. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry." Dorothy's voice followed her. "For what you did? Or for getting caught?" Patricia didn't answer. She disappeared into the crowd, her lawyers flanking her like bodyguards. The reporters erupted with questions, but Dorothy held up her hand. "I have something to say, and I need you all to listen." The crowd quieted. Dorothy took a deep breath. "This isn't about one racist flight attendant. This is about a system that protects people like Patricia Morgan while silencing people like me. This is about airlines that respond to discrimination with settlements and NDAs instead of real change. This is about asking victims to be quiet instead of demanding perpetrators face consequences." Her voice strengthened. "I'm 78 years old. I've spent 50 years fighting discrimination in courtrooms across this country. I've won cases that changed laws. I've helped dismantle systems of oppression. And I'm standing here in 2024, still fighting the same battles." She paused, looking directly into the cameras. "So here's what I want every person watching this to understand. Staying quiet doesn't make discrimination go away. It makes it stronger. Every time you witness injustice and say nothing, you give it permission to continue. Every time you see someone being treated differently because of their skin color and you look away, you become part of the problem." The terminal was absolutely silent now. Even the reporters had stopped shouting questions. What happened to me today happens to Black people every day. In airports, in restaurants, in stores, in workplaces. Small moments of discrimination that people are told to ignore, to not make a fuss about, to be grateful it wasn't worse. Dorothy's voice rose. "I'm done being grateful. I'm done staying quiet. I'm done accepting less than equal treatment and being told I'm too sensitive for objecting." She looked at the crowd of supporters that had gathered, passengers from her flight, random travelers who'd stopped to watch, airport employees standing at the edges. If you've ever experienced discrimination, speak up. If you've ever witnessed it, speak up. If you've ever looked the other way because it was easier than getting involved, stop. Stop looking away. Stop making excuses. Stop pretending it's not your problem. Jasmine had tears streaming down her face. So did several reporters. Even some of the hardened camera operators looked moved. "I'm filing this lawsuit not because I want money. I'm filing it because I want accountability. I want Transcontinental Airlines to open their records and show us how many complaints they've buried. I want Patricia Morgan to face real consequences, not just a slap on the wrist and a transfer to a different route. I want every airline in this country to know that discriminating against passengers has a cost." A woman's voice called out from the crowd. "Mrs. Richardson!" Dorothy turned. A Black woman in her 60s, airport employee uniform, pushed through the crowd. Her name tag read, Gloria Jenkins. "Mrs. Richardson, I work here. I've worked at LAX for 35 years. Gloria's voice shook. "And I want you to know you're not alone. I've seen what Patricia Morgan did, not just today, for years. I've seen her treat Black passengers differently. I've reported it multiple times, and nothing ever happened." Dorothy's eyes locked on Gloria. "You reported her?" "Yes, ma'am. Me and 3 other employees. We all saw the pattern. We all filed complaints, and we were told we were being too sensitive, that we were seeing things that weren't there, that we needed to stop causing trouble." The reporters exploded with questions, but Gloria kept her eyes on Dorothy. "When I saw that video, I knew I had to speak up. I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. If you're filing a lawsuit, I want to testify. I want to tell what I've seen." Dorothy walked over to Gloria, took her hands. "Thank you. Thank you for your courage." "No, ma'am. Thank you for yours." Another airport employee stepped forward, then another. Within minutes, 5 employees had come forward, all with stories of reporting Patricia Morgan's behavior and being ignored. Jennifer Caldwell looked sick. She was on her phone, speaking rapidly, her free hand pressed to her forehead. Rachel Torres was already on camera, reporting live. This is developing into something much bigger than one incident of discrimination. We're now hearing that multiple employees reported the flight attendant in question over several years, and those complaints were allegedly ignored by management. Dorothy's phone rang. Angela Martinez, her attorney. Dorothy, are you seeing this? I'm living it. You just got 5 more witnesses, 5 employees willing to testify that the airline knew about Patricia Morgan's behavior and did nothing. That's negligence. That's corporate liability. We don't just have a discrimination case anymore. We have a cover-up. Dorothy felt something shift in her chest. Not just anger anymore, not just exhaustion, something else. Power. The power that comes from truth finally being heard. Angela, I want discovery on every complaint filed against Patricia Morgan. Every email, every report, everything. Already drafting the motion. This is going to be big, Dorothy. National news big. Good. It should be. Because if Transcontinental did this, how many other airlines are doing the same thing? She ended the call and looked at the crowd of reporters, supporters, employees, and random travelers who'd stopped to witness history being made. I have one more thing to say. To every person who's ever been told they're being too sensitive about discrimination, to every person who's been dismissed or silenced or made to feel crazy for trusting their own experiences, you're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. What you experienced was real, and you deserve to be believed. The crowd erupted in applause. Dorothy felt Jasmine's arms around her, felt the weight of 78 years of fighting, of struggling, of refusing to accept injustice. But she also felt something else, the weight of everyone watching now, expecting her to fix everything, to make all discrimination disappear because she'd spoken up on one airplane. She couldn't carry that weight alone. She'd been carrying it too long already. Dorothy pulled back from Jasmine, looked at the cameras one last time. I'm tired. I need to go home. But this fight isn't over. It's just beginning. And I can't do it alone. Every person watching this, you have a choice. You can go back to ignoring discrimination when you see it, or you can speak up. You can demand better. You can refuse to look away. She started walking toward baggage claim, Jasmine beside her, the crowd parting to let them through. Rachel Torres called after her. Mrs. Richardson, one more question. What do you want your legacy to be? Dorothy stopped, turned back. My legacy? I want my legacy to be a world where a 78-year-old grandmother doesn't have to stand in an airport and beg people to treat discrimination like it matters. That's my legacy. A world where the next generation doesn't have to keep fighting these same battles. She looked at Jasmine. But until we get there, I'll keep fighting. We all will. And with that, Dorothy Richardson walked away from the cameras, leaving behind a terminal full of people who would never forget what they'd witnessed, and a nation that was about to have a very uncomfortable conversation about discrimination in America. The Uber driver kept glancing at Dorothy through the rearview mirror. You're her, aren't you? The woman from the airplane video. Dorothy closed her eyes, leaned her head against the cool window. I'm her. That was something else, what you did, standing up like that. I was sitting down for most of it, Dorothy said, too tired for anything but honesty. You know what I mean. The driver, a black man probably in his 50s, met her eyes in the mirror. My daughter's in college, Howard University, pre-law. She called me crying after she saw your video, said she wants to be like you. Dorothy felt something crack in her chest. Tell her to be better than me. Tell her to live in a world where she doesn't have to fight these battles. But until then, tell her to fight like hell. The driver smiled, pulled up to Dorothy's house in View Park. Jasmine paid him while Dorothy stood on the sidewalk, looking at the home she'd lived in for 40 years. The home she'd shared with James until cancer took him. The home where she'd raised her daughter, helped raise Jasmine, built a life that was supposed to be proof that the struggle was worth it. Grandma, your phone's been ringing nonstop. Jasmine held up Dorothy's phone. 37 missed calls, 62 text messages. Turn it off. What? Turn it off. I need silence, just for tonight. Inside the house, Dorothy collapsed into James's old armchair. She hadn't moved it in 5 years. Couldn't bear to. Jasmine brought her tea without being asked, sat on the ottoman at her feet the way she'd done since she was 6. Talk to me, Grandma. About what? About what you're feeling. You've been holding it together since the plane landed, but you don't have to anymore. Not with me. Dorothy's hands shook as she lifted the teacup. I'm scared. Of what? of failing, of all those people who came forward, who trusted me to do something with their stories, and I can't deliver, of being 78 years old and too tired to finish what I started. You're not going to fail. You don't know that, baby. I know you. Jasmine took her grandmother's hand. I know you don't quit. Ever. Dorothy's phone buzzed on the table where Jasmine had set it, then buzzed again and again. I thought you turned it off. I lied. Jasmine picked it up, her eyes widening as she read. Grandma, you need to see this. Dorothy took the phone. An email from Angela Martinez sent 10 minutes ago. The subject line read, "You need to see this now." She opened it. Inside was a PDF attachment, internal Transcontinental Airlines documents, complaint records, dated back 15 years. Patricia Morgan's name appeared 43 times. 43 complaints, Dorothy whispered. 43. Jasmine leaned over, reading. How did Angela get these? Doesn't matter. What matters is Transcontinental knew. They knew for 15 years that Patricia Morgan was discriminating against passengers, and they did nothing. The phone rang. Angela. Tell me you're seeing this, Angela said without preamble. I'm seeing it. How did you get internal documents? Whistleblower. Someone inside Transcontinental who's been sitting on this for years. They saw your video and decided they couldn't stay quiet anymore. Who? Can't tell you yet. They want anonymity until we can guarantee protection.
But Dorothy, this is bigger than we thought. Patricia Morgan isn't the only one. There are 6 other flight attendants with similar complaint patterns, all still employed, all protected by management. Dorothy's tea went cold in her hands. 6 others? At minimum, and that's just Transcontinental. Angela's voice dropped. Dorothy, I think we're looking at a systemic problem, industry-wide. We need to expand the lawsuit. Already working on it. But there's something else. Transcontinental's legal team just filed a motion to dismiss your case. They're claiming you're a professional litigant trying to extort money. A professional litigant? I've been retired for 5 years. They're also claiming Patricia Morgan's behavior was an isolated incident and that you're exaggerating for publicity. They've got 3 passengers from the flight who are willing to testify that they saw nothing discriminatory. Dorothy's blood went cold. Which passengers? I'll email you the names. But Dorothy, we need to be prepared for this to get ugly. They're going to attack your credibility, your character, everything. Let them try. Dorothy ended the call and looked at Jasmine. They're coming after me. We knew they would. Knowing and experiencing are different things, baby. The doorbell rang. Jasmine went to answer it, came back with Robert Williams, the businessman from the flight. Mr. Williams, what are you doing here? Robert's expression was grim. I got a visit today. 2 men in expensive suits from Transcontinental's legal team. They offered me $100,000 to recant my testimony, to say I didn't see anything discriminatory on that flight. Dorothy set down her teacup carefully. What did you tell them? I told them to go to hell. Then I called my own lawyers. Robert pulled out his phone, showed Dorothy an email. This is what they sent after I refused. A list of every business deal my company has with Transcontinental. $37 million in annual contracts. They're threatening to cancel all of it if I testify against them. That's witness intimidation. That's capitalism. Robert's voice was bitter. They know I can't afford to lose those contracts. I have 3,000 employees depending on those deals. So you're backing out? Hell no. Robert sat down heavily on the couch. I'm testifying. I'm just telling you what they're willing to do to protect themselves. They're going to come after every witness, every supporter, everyone who spoke up. Jasmine's phone buzzed. She looked at it, her face going pale. Grandma, look at Twitter. Dorothy took the phone. A trending hashtag. Hashtag Dorothy Richardson lies. Underneath, dozens of tweets claiming she'd fabricated the whole incident. Fake accounts spreading rumors that she'd planted the expired food herself, that she was a con artist, that she had a history of suing companies for money. They're running a smear campaign, Jasmine whispered. Of course they are. Dorothy's voice was flat. It's cheaper than admitting guilt.
Robert leaned forward. Mrs. Richardson, I need you to understand something. Transcontinental Airlines is worth $12 billion. They have unlimited resources, unlimited lawyers, unlimited ways to make this go away. Are you prepared for that? Are you asking if I'm going to quit? I'm asking if you know what you're up against. Dorothy stood up slowly, walked to the mantel where photos of her life lined up like soldiers. Her and James on their wedding day. Her being arrested at a sit-in in 1963. Her arguing her first case in front of the Supreme Court. Her accepting a civil rights award from President Obama. Mr. Williams, I've been up against worse. I've faced the Klan. I've faced judges who thought black people were subhuman. I've faced laws designed to keep me in my place. $1 billion airline doesn't scare me. It should. They play dirty. So do I. Dorothy turned back to him. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to attack me. They're going to try to destroy my reputation. They're going to dig up every mistake I've ever made and broadcast it to the world. And I'm going to let them. Because every minute they spend attacking me is a minute they're not denying what Patricia Morgan did. Every article calling me a liar is another article talking about discrimination in the airline industry. They think they're burying the story. They're actually spreading it. Robert stared at her. You planned for this. I've been planning for this my whole life. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Dr. Patterson, Sarah Chen, and Gloria Jenkins, the airport employee who'd spoken up at the terminal. Mrs. Richardson, Gloria said, we all got visits today, people trying to intimidate us into staying quiet. What did they offer you? Dorothy asked. Money, promotions. One guy threatened my pension. Gloria's voice shook. I've worked for 35 years. My pension is everything. But I'm still testifying because this is bigger than my retirement. Sarah held up her phone. My video has 20 million views now, and I've been getting death threats, hundreds of them. People calling me a race baiter, telling me I'm destroying an innocent woman's life. I'm so sorry, Dorothy started, but Sarah cut her off. Don't be. I knew what I was doing when I posted that video. I knew there would be backlash. I'm here to tell you, I'm not backing down. One by one, they each affirmed their commitment. Dorothy felt the weight of their courage, their sacrifice, their willingness to risk everything for justice. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Richardson? A man's voice, smooth and confident. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm the chief legal counsel for Transcontinental Airlines. I'd like to discuss a resolution to this situation. Dorothy put the phone on speaker. I'm listening. We're prepared to offer you a settlement of $2 million. Full compensation for your experience, plus punitive damages. In exchange, you drop the lawsuit and sign a non-disclosure agreement. $2 million to be quiet. $2 million to move on with your life. And what happens to Patricia Morgan? Ms. Morgan has been terminated. Her employment with Transcontinental Airlines ended this afternoon. What about the other 6 flight attendants with similar complaint histories? Silence. Then, I don't know what you're referring to. Yes, you do. I have the internal documents. 43 complaints against Patricia Morgan over 15 years. 6 other employees with comparable records. All still working. All protected by your company. More silence. Mrs. Richardson, those documents are confidential and proprietary. If you obtain them illegally, I obtained them from a whistleblower, which is completely legal under federal law. So let me ask you again, what happens to those 6 employees? That's an internal personnel matter. That's not an answer. Marcus Webb's voice hardened. Mrs. Richardson, I'm trying to be reasonable here. $2 million is a generous offer, but if you refuse, we'll have no choice but to defend ourselves vigorously. That means discovery. That means depositions. That means every detail of your life becoming public record. Your finances, your marriage, your past cases, everything. Are you prepared for that? Dorothy looked at the faces around her living room. Robert, Jasmine, Gloria, Sarah, Dr. Patterson, all of them risking everything to stand with her.
Mr. Webb, let me tell you what I'm prepared for. I'm prepared to spend whatever time I have left fighting your airline. I'm prepared to sit in depositions and answer every question. I'm prepared to have my life examined under a microscope because I have nothing to hide.
Can Transcontinental say the same? You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was flying your airline. We're done here. She ended the call. The room erupted. $2 million, Robert said. Dorothy, that's not enough. Not even close. Dorothy sat back down in James's chair. Because this isn't about money. It never was. Jasmine knelt beside her. Grandma, they're going to destroy you. You heard him. They're going to dig up everything. Let them dig. They won't find anything I'm ashamed of. What about when you were arrested? The protests. They could use that against you. Dorothy smiled. Baby, I'm proud of every arrest, every protest, every time I stood up and said no to injustice. If they want to remind people of that, they're welcome to. Angela called back. They just filed an emergency motion for a gag order. They want to prevent you from talking to the media about the case. Can they do that? They can try. We'll fight it. But Dorothy, you need to be careful what you say publicly from now on. I'm done being careful. Dorothy, Angela, listen to me. They're trying to silence me because they know the more I talk, the more people listen. The more people listen, the more victims come forward. The more victims come forward, the bigger this gets. They're not afraid of a lawsuit. They're afraid of the truth. Then we give them truth. Angela's voice was steel. I'm filing an amended complaint tomorrow, adding the 6 other employees, adding the whistleblower evidence, and I'm adding a RICO claim. RICO? That's organized crime. Exactly. 43 complaints systematically buried over 15 years. 6 employees protected despite evidence of discrimination. That's a pattern of racketeering. That's conspiracy. That's not 6 bad apples. That's a rotten tree. Dorothy felt something fierce and hot burning in her chest. Not anger, something bigger. Righteousness. Do it. File everything. And Angela, go public with it. I want every media outlet to have those documents by tomorrow morning. That's going to make them come after you even harder. Good, because the harder they come, the more desperate they look. And desperate people make mistakes. After everyone left, Dorothy sat alone in the dark living room. Jasmine had gone upstairs to bed, exhausted from the day. But Dorothy couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with strategy, with possibilities, with the weight of what she'd started. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Mrs. Richardson, my name is Catherine Walsh. I was a flight attendant for Transcontinental for 12 years. Patricia Morgan trained me. She taught me that black passengers were difficult and to give them minimum service. I stayed quiet because I needed the job, but I can't stay quiet anymore. I want to testify. Another text came through, then another and another. Flight attendants, gate agents, pilots, customer service representatives, all of them with stories, all of them ready to speak up. By midnight, Dorothy had received 47 messages from current and former Transcontinental employees. 47 people who'd witnessed discrimination and stayed quiet. Until now. She forwarded them all to Angela with a single message. We're going to need a bigger lawsuit. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, too exhausted to talk to another reporter or lawyer or supporter. But the caller ID said unknown, and something made her pick up. Mrs. Richardson? A woman's voice, older, tired, familiar somehow. Yes? My name is Helen Morgan. Patricia is my daughter. Dorothy's blood went cold. Ms. Morgan. I saw the videos, all of them. I saw what my daughter did to you. And I'm calling to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize for your daughter's actions. Yes, I do, because I raised her. I raised her in a house where those attitudes were normal, where talking about black people like they were less than was just conversation. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And now my daughter's life is destroyed because I taught her to hate. Dorothy didn't know what to say. This woman, this mother, calling to apologize for raising a racist daughter? Ms. Morgan, I'm not calling for forgiveness. I'm calling because you deserve to know the truth. Patricia learned her racism from me, from her father, from her grandparents. It's generational. It's poison that gets passed down. And I'm calling to tell you that I support what you're doing. I support the lawsuit. I support you destroying my daughter's career. Because maybe, just maybe, it'll break the cycle. Why are you telling me this? Because someone needs to. Because the truth matters. And because I'm 76 years old and I'm running out of time to make things right. Helen Morgan hung up. Dorothy sat in the dark, holding her phone, processing what she'd just heard. Patricia Morgan wasn't a monster. She was a product of systems and families and generations of normalized racism. That didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained it. And it made Dorothy's mission even clearer. This wasn't about punishing Patricia. This was about dismantling the systems that created Patricia. The airlines that protected her, the society that enabled her, the generational poison that kept producing people who thought discrimination was normal. Dorothy looked at the photo of her and James on the mantel. I'm doing this for us, baby, for everyone who fought before me, and everyone who'll have to fight after I'm gone. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since the plane landed, she let herself cry. For the exhaustion, for the weight, for 50 years of fighting and knowing she'd probably die before the war was won. But also for hope, for 47 employees ready to speak up, for 11 passengers willing to testify, for a mother brave enough to admit her daughter's hatred came from her, for change, real, tangible, possible change. Dorothy cried until she had no tears left. Then she picked up her phone and texted Angela. File everything. Hold nothing back. It's time to burn it all down. Angela's response came through at 6:47 a.m. Press conference at 9, Federal Courthouse. Be ready. Dorothy hadn't slept. She'd spent the night reading through messages from the 47 employees, each story more damning than the last. Patterns of discrimination spanning decades. Systematic protection of racist employees. Evidence buried so deep it would take years to excavate all of it. Jasmine found her at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by printed emails and documents. Grandma, you didn't sleep. Couldn't. Too much to do. Dorothy looked up, her eyes red but fierce. Did you see the news? Jasmine turned on the TV. Every major network led with the same story. Dorothy's face filled the screen, followed by the internal transcontinental documents Angela had leaked at midnight. This is an earthquake, the CNN anchor said. 43 complaints against one employee over 15 years, all allegedly ignored by management. The question now is, what did Transcontinental Airlines know, and when did they know it? Dorothy's phone rang. Robert Williams. Turn on CNBC, he said without greeting. She switched channels. Transcontinental's stock price was plummeting, down 18% in pre-market trading. Analysts were calling it a corporate catastrophe. Investors were demanding answers. They're bleeding money, Robert said. Every hour this story stays in the news costs them millions. They're going to have to respond. Let them respond. We have the evidence. At 8:15 a.m., Transcontinental CEO Richard Blackwell held an emergency press conference. Dorothy watched it live, Angela on speakerphone. Blackwell's face was grave, controlled. Let me be absolutely clear. Transcontinental Airlines does not tolerate discrimination in any form. The allegations against our company are based on stolen documents taken out of context. Patricia Morgan was a rogue employee who has been terminated. Any suggestion that management knew about or enabled her behavior is categorically false. He's lying, Angela said. We have emails from his office. He personally reviewed 3 complaints against Patricia and did nothing. Blackwell continued. Mrs. Richardson is a professional activist with a history of filing frivolous lawsuits. This is not about civil rights. This is about extortion, and we will not be extorted. Dorothy's hands clenched. A professional activist. That's what he's going with. A reporter shouted a question. Mr. Blackwell, if these documents are taken out of context, why not release the full complaint files and let the public judge? Blackwell's expression flickered.
Those files contain sensitive employee information protected by privacy laws. Convenient, another reporter called out. You're hiding behind privacy laws to avoid accountability? We're protecting our employees' rights while conducting a thorough internal investigation. Thank you. That's all. He walked away from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions. Dorothy stood up. Angela, tell me we're ready. We're ready. See you at 9. The federal courthouse steps were packed. Cameras, reporters, supporters holding signs that read, "Justice for Dorothy," and "Airlines must change." Dorothy walked up those steps with Jasmine on one side and Angela on the other, flanked by Robert Williams, Dr. Patterson, Sarah Chen, and Gloria Jenkins. Angela stepped to the microphone. Good morning. We are here to announce the filing of an expanded federal lawsuit against Transcontinental Airlines. The complaint includes charges of systematic racial discrimination, violation of the Civil Rights Act, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and, under the RICO statute, racketeering. The crowd erupted. Angela raised her hand for quiet. We have evidence of 43 complaints against Patricia Morgan over 15 years, all buried by management. We have evidence of 6 other employees with similar complaint histories, all still employed. We have testimony from 47 current and former employees describing a culture of discrimination that was not only tolerated, but encouraged. She paused. And we have emails from CEO Richard Blackwell himself, personally reviewing complaints and ordering them closed without investigation. This is not one bad employee. This is systematic, intentional, corporate-sanctioned discrimination. A reporter shouted, "Mrs. Richardson, do you have a comment?" Dorothy stepped to the microphone. I was told I don't belong in first class. I was served expired food while white passengers ate gourmet meals. And when I spoke up, I was called a liar, an extortionist, a professional activist. She paused. But here's what I really am. I'm a 78-year-old woman who's tired of being treated as less than human because of my skin color. And I'm not alone. Thousands of passengers have experienced the same discrimination. Most stayed quiet. I won't. The questions came rapid fire. Dorothy answered each one, her voice steady, her facts irrefutable. Then someone in the crowd shouted, "Dorothy Richardson is a race baiter trying to get rich." The crowd turned. A group of protesters had appeared, holding signs supporting Transcontinental. "Stop the witch hunt! Patricia Morgan is innocent! Don't destroy good companies with lies!" Dorothy recognized the tactic immediately. Corporate-funded counter-protesters. She'd seen it 100 times. "Those people have every right to their opinion," Dorothy said into the microphone. "But I'd ask them one question. If your mother or grandmother was served rotten food on an airplane, would you tell them to stay quiet, or would you want them to speak up?" One of the counter-protesters, a white woman in her 60s, lowered her sign slightly. Dorothy saw the doubt flicker across her face. "This isn't about destroying a company," Dorothy continued. "This is about making companies treat all passengers equally. That shouldn't be controversial. That should be basic human decency." The press conference ended. Dorothy walked back down the courthouse steps, exhausted but energized. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Richardson, this is Congressman Michael Torres from California's 37th District. I've been following your case. I'd like to invite you to testify before the House Transportation Committee next week. We're holding emergency hearings on discrimination in the airline industry." Dorothy stopped walking. "Congressional hearings? Your case has exposed something we've suspected for years but couldn't prove. We need your testimony. We need your evidence. And Mrs. Richardson, we need your voice." She looked at Jasmine, at Angela, at all the people who'd stood with her. "I'll be there." The hearing room was packed. Dorothy sat at the witness table, 78 years old and carrying the weight of every discriminated passenger who'd ever stayed quiet. Congressman Torres began. "Mrs. Richardson, thank you for being here. Can you tell us in your own words what happened on Transcontinental Flight 201? Dorothy spoke for 20 minutes. Clear, precise, devastating. She presented evidence, cited witnesses, showed the expired food she'd kept in a sealed bag. Then she dropped the bomb Angela had saved for this moment. "Congressman, may I present additional evidence?" Dorothy pulled out a folder.
These are internal memos from Transcontinental's executive team. They show that discrimination complaints were not just ignored, they were tracked, categorized, and deliberately suppressed to avoid legal liability. The company knew they had a problem. They chose profit over people. The room exploded. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed out to file stories. A Republican congressman from Texas leaned forward. Mrs. Richardson, some might say you're exaggerating the scope of this problem for publicity. How do you respond? Dorothy met his eyes. Congressman, I have 47 employees willing to testify under oath. I have 11 passengers who witnessed my experience. I have video evidence. I have the expired food itself. How much evidence do you need before you believe a black woman telling the truth? The congressman's face reddened. He had no response. The hearing continued for 6 hours. Dorothy answered every question, refuted every challenge, presented evidence that painted an undeniable picture of systematic discrimination. But the toll was visible. By hour 5, Dorothy's hands shook when she lifted her water glass. Her voice, so strong at the beginning, had become raspy and thin. Jasmine whispered, "Grandma, you need to take a break." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're 78 and you've been going nonstop for 4 days. I'll rest when this is over." But during a bathroom break, Dorothy collapsed. Not dramatically, just a slow slide down the bathroom wall, her legs giving out, her breath coming in short gasps. Jasmine found her there. "Grandma!" "I'm okay, just tired." "You're not okay. We're going to the hospital." "No, I have to finish testifying." "Grandma!" "Jasmine," Dorothy grabbed her granddaughter's hand. "I'm 78 years old. I don't know how many fights I have left in me, but I know this one matters. I know if I walk away now, they win. So I'm finishing. Help me up." Jasmine pulled her grandmother to her feet, tears streaming down her face. "You're the strongest person I know." "I'm the most stubborn. There's a difference." Dorothy returned to the hearing room. The chairman looked concerned. "Mrs. Richardson, we can continue this tomorrow if you need rest." "Thank you, Congressman, but I'd like to finish today." The final hour was brutal. A defense attorney for Transcontinental tried to discredit Dorothy, pulling up old cases, questioning her motives, suggesting she had financial incentives. "Mrs. Richardson, isn't it true you refused a $2 million settlement?" "Yes." "Why would someone refuse $2 million if this was really about justice and not publicity?" Dorothy smiled, tired but triumphant. "Because $2 million doesn't change anything. It pays me to be quiet. It lets Transcontinental keep discriminating. It tells every other victim that silence has a price. I didn't refuse the money because I don't need it. I refused it because some things are worth more than money. Like dignity, like equality, like making sure my granddaughter doesn't have to fight these same battles when she's 78. The attorney had no follow-up. The hearing ended. 3 weeks later, the Department of Transportation announced mandatory discrimination audits for all major airlines. The FAA implemented new complaint tracking systems. Congress passed the Airline Passenger Bill of Rights, requiring transparent reporting of discrimination complaints. Transcontinental Airlines settled the lawsuit for an undisclosed sum, but more importantly, they agreed to policy changes, independent oversight, quarterly audits, a passenger advocacy board with seats reserved for civil rights organizations. Every demand Dorothy had made, they accepted. Patricia Morgan pled guilty to federal discrimination charges. She received probation and mandatory community service, teaching anti-racism workshops. 6 other employees were terminated. Richard Blackwell resigned as CEO. But the real victory came 6 months later. Dorothy received a letter from a young black woman named Aisha Thompson. "Dear Mrs. Richardson, I flew first class last week for the first time. I was terrified, but the flight attendant was kind, professional, and treated me exactly the same as every other passenger. When I thanked her at the end of the flight, she said, 'We had training because of Dorothy Richardson. She changed everything.' I'm writing to say thank you. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for making it possible for people like me to fly without fear." Dorothy read that letter to Jasmine over breakfast. "This is why we did it.
not the lawsuit, not the policy changes. Those matter, but this matters more. One person flying without fear, one person treated with dignity. That's change you can measure. A year after the incident, Dorothy was invited back to the same congressional committee, not to testify, to receive an award. Congressman Torres presented her with the Congressional Civil Rights Medal. Dorothy Richardson reminds us that courage doesn't retire, that justice doesn't have an age limit, that one voice raised in truth can change an entire industry. Dorothy accepted the medal, looked at the cameras, at the audience, at Jasmine sitting in the front row with tears streaming down her face. I want to say something to every person watching this. You have power, more power than you know. Your voice matters. Your experiences matter. Your refusal to accept discrimination matters. Don't let anyone tell you to be quiet. Don't let anyone tell you to be grateful for crumbs while others feast. Don't let anyone make you feel like speaking up is wrong. She paused, gathering strength for what she needed to say next. I'm 78 years old. I won't be here forever to fight these battles, but you will. Your children will. Your grandchildren will. And I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll speak up. Promise me you'll stand up. Promise me you won't let the progress we've made slip away because staying quiet is easier than fighting. The room was absolutely silent. Because here's what I learned from one airplane incident. Change doesn't happen because institutions suddenly develop a conscience. Change happens because ordinary people refuse to accept the unacceptable. Change happens because a grandmother stands up on an airplane and says, "This is wrong," even though she's scared. Change happens because passengers witness discrimination and refuse to look away. Change happens because employees risk their jobs to tell the truth. Change happens because all of us, together, decide that enough is enough. Dorothy looked directly into the camera. I started this fight because I was served expired food on an airplane, but it became about something bigger. It became about every person who's ever been made to feel less than. Every person who's been told they don't belong. Every person who's experienced discrimination and been told to be quiet about it. She felt her age in her bones, felt the exhaustion of a year spent fighting. But she also felt something else. Hope. Real, tangible hope. Transcontinental Airlines changed their policies. 6 other major airlines followed. The Department of Transportation implemented new oversight. But you want to know the change I'm most proud of? 47 employees found their courage. 11 passengers became lifelong activists. Airport workers started reporting discrimination instead of ignoring it. And thousands of people who watched this unfold decided they weren't going to stay quiet anymore. Dorothy's voice strengthened. That's the real victory. Not the lawsuit, not the policies, but the fact that we created a community of people who refuse to accept discrimination as normal, who refuse to look away when